in Park City, Utah for some altitude training before the season starts. Before arriving here, I had an intensity block, so it was 2 weeks of a lot of L4 and L5 just to get the engines going, and then here the focus is more on volume. So gonna be doing a little bit slower training just to acclimate to the high elevation and to get the most out of what altitude has to offer, which is just like I don't know, really hard effort at pretty much any activity. Um, so getting in some volume, getting the heart working.
Everybody has different way to go through acclimatization and altitude. But if people have an opportunity to go even ski for recreation on an altitude, there's a lot of beautiful places to ski, like California or out west. So what
Totally.
would your recommendation be for those that kind of before they get to the altitude, and maybe once they get to the trails and the altitude, or even like for hiking or roller skiing, doesn't matter. What would you suggest kind of important for you, what works for you to be acclimated well and maybe not as painful?
Mm. Well, I actually think number one is the understanding that it is going to feel different than sea level. And I think it feels good to accept that pretty much no matter what, you will feel a difference when you're exercising at a higher elevation. And I think sometimes that's shocking to people and they notice it's much harder. And then it's like, oh no, like maybe it can turn into worry if you're not prepared for the fact that it is just kind of a different game. So pretty much everyone will feel that effect when you start training at a higher elevation. So that's the first thing I like to do is just prep my mind like, okay, this is a different feeling. It's not a bad thing if I feel really tired, because that's expected. So that would be the first thing I would do, just adjust expectations and then be okay with training a lot slower than you usually do. And then just extra emphasis on the things that make you feel good, like hydrating and sleeping and eating plenty, which is, of course, obvious, but maybe a little more important when your body is adjusting to a higher altitude. So,
Do you adjust your hydration? Do you drink more fluids than normally you would when you go to altitude, or it's the same, just making sure you kind of doing the same thing as you back at home?
I definitely do drink more, and that I feel a lot more thirsty and I can feel that it's a dry climate. So it's not hard to drink more fluids because I want to and I feel that urge often. So it is definitely more than at home, but I think it's not a puzzle like your body will probably tell you.
Mhm.
And you'll probably feel that. But yeah, I make an extra effort to be taking in fluids because I'm not always the best at hydration anyway. So
So kind of the same concept. Once you feel thirsty, that's too late.
yeah, and I would maybe supplement with more, like maybe I'd put electrolytes in my water more often out here or have sugar or something in my water just to make sure I like putting sugar in my water to make it more tempting actually, because then I want to drink it.
Hmm.
But
Okay, interesting.
yeah.
Okay, well, what else this time of year you think is different than other periods of the training?
Well, I think something mentally that feels different is that it's right before the race season. So it feels like every workout is, I mean, ideally it would feel like this throughout the entire training year that you're visualizing how it's directly impacting the way you race, but it's just a little easier when it's so soon when the races are coming up. So I guess in the fall I feel like there's extra emphasis on how is this going to make me race faster in the season, and it's just good to know that the why behind your workouts and visualizing how they're going to translate to on snow racing. So that would be Yeah. It is higher intensity, like, specifically in terms of training, but also mentally, I feel like it feels very applicable because it's so soon, the racing.